Welcome to our Ask the Expert video series. I'm Colleen Miller. I'm the director of the Disability Law Center of Virginia. The Disability Law Center of Virginia is the Commonwealth's designated protection and advocacy system. We're here to promote and protect the rights of people with disabilities throughout the Commonwealth. One of the ways that we do that is through education and outreach about disability rights issues. So this is your chance to ask the expert. Let's ask the expert about employment rights for people with disabilities.
Hi, good morning, Mrs. Davis.
Good morning. Thanks for taking the time to see me.
No problem. So what brings you to the DLCV today?
I'm having some problems at work.
So what kind of job do you have?
I'm an office manager. I really like my job, but sometimes it's hard for me to keep up.
How so?
Well, I have trouble concentrating. I have a traumatic brain injury, and the office is full of talking coworkers, and there's phones and copiers buzzing and ringing all day. We're in a large common area with only partitions to separate us.
It sounds like a private space may be helpful.
Yeah, some of the employees have private offices, but they're more senior employees.
Have you discussed any of your concerns with your boss?
That's actually one of the reasons I'm here. I'm not really sure what to do. I mean, I don't want my boss to look at me differently, but I also don't want him to think I'm slacking because I can't concentrate.
It sounds like you would like to request a reasonable accommodation.
What's a reasonable accommodation?
A reasonable accommodation is any change in the work environment and in the way things are usually done that gives a qualified individual with a disability an equal employment opportunity.
That sounds like it could be really helpful. How do I know if I'm a qualified individual?
A qualified individual under Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, means an individual who, with or without reasonable accommodations, can perform the essential functions or the basic job duties of the employment position. If you are an individual with a disability, then your employer must consider whether you can perform the essential function of the job with a reasonable accommodation.
Okay, that sounds like my situation. How do I get a reasonable accommodation?
People who want a reasonable accommodation need to ask the employer for one and explain why they need it.
What do I need to include in the request?
According to the ADA, an accommodation request should tell the employer, 1, your disability, 2, any reasons why you need the accommodations, and 3, any accommodations you may be able to suggest. If you do not know what possible accommodations would work, you should talk to someone who can help you. People who may be able to help you and give you ideas are your healthcare professional, a vocational rehabilitation counselor, a job coach, the Job Accommodation Network, or even a case manager.
So I just ask for what I need because I know what it is?
Your employer is required to provide you with a reasonable accommodation under the ADA if they have 15 or more employees, but it may not be exactly what you ask for. For example, if a person requests a private office, but they are offered a private partitioned space that has low traffic, that may work just as well.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I just really need someplace quiet to work. Can I just go to HR and ask for it?
Although an accommodation request does not have to be in writing, it is stronger if it is, and it provides a paper trail to document the process. Some employers have special forms in which to make the request.
Things are becoming a lot clearer now. I think I know what I need to do next. Thank you for taking the time to see me.
You're welcome, and I wish you the best. Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Oh, good afternoon.
When we spoke briefly earlier today, you mentioned some issues at work.
Yes, I really need some help.
Please, walk me through what's happening.
Well, after 30 years as a dental hygienist, I was fired last week. After 30 years.
What happened?
Well, recently I've been having some neurological problems, causing some pain in my back and my legs.
I see. Did this affect how you perform at work?
Honestly, I did have some problems at work, but I felt like I could do the job.
Well, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, an employee must be able to complete what are known as the essential functions of their job. Essential functions are the basic job duties that an employee must be able to perform with or without reasonable accommodations. You and your employer should carefully examine your day-to-day duties to determine which functions or tasks are essential to your performance. Are there certain tasks that are difficult that perhaps you can complete with accommodations?
Well, I have a lot of different things I do at the office, and there is one particular exam room where I'm most comfortable. The instrument tray and the seating is such that I can be seated and perform most of my job. The other exam rooms I have to stand too much. Last year my boss was pretty understanding. He let me work just in the one room. But then this year he's insisted I have to work in all 3 examination rooms. I told him I can't do that unless I work shorter hours or I have more frequent breaks.
Did you ever ask him to modify your work schedule and work fewer hours?
I didn't know I could ask for a modified work schedule. Could that be a reasonable accommodation for my disability?
Yes, a modified work schedule is an example of a reasonable accommodation. Acquiring or modifying equipment or devices, job restructuring, and making the workplace accessible and usable by people with disabilities are also examples of reasonable accommodation.
You know, at one point we did talk about modifying my work schedule and more frequent breaks, and I told him it was because of my disability, and my boss just said no.
Did you make the request in writing?
Well, I gave him a letter from my doctor saying I needed to reduce my work hours and needed more frequent breaks. I guess I was making a request for a reasonable accommodation, and I didn't even realize it.
You sure did, and now you have the right to make a complaint.
Who do I complain to?
You have the right to file a complaint against your employer with the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, the EEOC, if you feel your rights under the ADA have been violated. If you feel your rights have been violated under the Virginians with Disabilities Act, you may also file with the Virginia Division of Human Rights. Both the ADA and the VDA protect individuals with disabilities from employment discrimination. To learn more about the EEOC complaint process, call 800-669-4000 or visit eeoc.gov. To learn more about the DHR complaint process, call 804-786-2071 or email human_rights@oag.state.va.us.
How long do I have to make a complaint?
That is a good question. The EEOC says the complaint must be filed within 180 days of the incident in question. Because Virginia has the Division of Human Rights, this filing deadline may be extended to 300 days. We recommend you file within 180 days in either system to better protect your rights.
Does an employer usually agree to an accommodation once it moves up the ladder and to file a formal complaint?
Not always. An important thing to remember is that an employer may be prepared to defend their denial. They may argue essential functions cannot be performed even with accommodations, or say the cost is an undue burden.
What is an undue burden?
Meaning the cost of the accommodation would cause a negative effect on expenses and resources of the business or upon the operation of the facility, and they cannot afford to provide it.
Well, this information has been extremely helpful. Thank you so much. Can I call you again if I have questions as I go through the process?
Absolutely. That's why we are here.
Thank you again.
If you would like to discuss your disability rights issue, please call the Disability Law Center of Virginia. Our intake hours are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8:30 to 4 p.m. You can call us at 1-800-552-3962, or you can email us at info@dlcv.org. Thanks for watching. This video contains general information for educational purposes. This should not be considered legal advice. It is not a comprehensive statement of the law and may not reflect more recent legal developments. If you have specific questions concerning any matter contained in this video, or if you need legal advice, please consult with an attorney.